If you've had a romantic relationship with a woman that lasted, say, 6 months or longer, you probably noticed at least one, if not all three, of these characteristics. She was probably anxious, which means fearful or uncertain about the future. Depressed, which means she was sad about the past, uncertain, perhaps even hopeless, and confused, which means she didn't know what to do with her life. She felt untethered, like she did not have a direction in her life that she felt confident and comfortable with. This is not a coincidence. I would suggest, given the definition we use to identify COVID-19 as a pandemic, that the mental health problems that we're seeing in women is also a pandemic. Today, I want to talk a little bit about why women are experiencing this and what some possible solutions might be, because to me it seems like this is only getting worse and it's spreading. Right now I think it's in most of the industrialized world, but even countries that are developing are starting to experience exactly these same characteristics in their women. And it's not good for us, it's not good for them, it's not good for anyone. So let's talk about it. One observation I've made recently is that women have been taking on a lot more gender roles, masculine gender roles in society over the last, say, 40 years or so. Yet at the same time, they have been expressing a lot of anger and dissatisfaction with masculinity as a whole, which is really interesting because on the one hand, they're wanting to play a major role in the masculine world, but on the other hand, they deride masculinity as being toxic, or they talk about it as being a negative thing for men, God forbid, and that it's ruining society on many levels. So I can only imagine how this dichotomy of thought in their little brains is causing them a lot of discomfort, because how can you desire to be more impactful in the masculine world while at the same time hating masculinity as much as they do? I'm not sure exactly if anyone's ever done a study on that, but I find that interesting, because wanting to be something that you hate seems a little counterproductive to me. Now, you would think that a movement that identifies itself as feminist would be pro-woman, but that is not the case with the current feminist movement. They devalue women who decide for themselves that they want to take on more traditional feminine roles. They push women to move into more masculine roles. They don't see that women who are choosing to raise families and to be moms and wives and to be homemakers as being their constituency. I think they see these women as holdouts or traitors in some way. So what ends up happening is the popular narrative for women is that they should follow a man's path. They should go to college, they should get a career during their 20s, they should become successful in their own right. Of course, the problem with that is that women have a maternal drive to have families. Not all of them, but lots of them do. And it's very hard to, or I shouldn't say very hard, it's much harder to meet a man, get married, and have a family in your mid-30s. First of all, your fertility window is nearly closed, and these days, for any number of reasons, people are having a much more difficult time getting pregnant. The hypocrisy of the feminist movement and as women in general has grown to the point where women who take on more masculine roles in society are being applauded and pointed out as success stories, while men who are more masculine are seen as being toxic or in some way pulling away from society or being less valuable to the world. Making matters worse is that if men take on more feminine qualities, which women say they want men to do, well, inevitably that ends up with them being less attractive and less desirable to women. So men can't be more masculine because we'll be ostracized for that and we'll be told that we are toxic. And we can't be more feminine because if we do that, then we're going to be less attractive and less desirable. All the while, women are only being characterized as successful if they take on these more masculine roles, while the women who take on more feminine roles are seen as being sellouts. These traditional women who want to be moms, they don't seem to have as much value in the feminine world as women who are career-minded. Another one of the weird things about feminism is they have this patriarchy in mind. Now, maybe that patriarchy existed 100 years ago. Maybe even to some extent 70 years ago or 60 years ago. But today, I think the patriarchy is gone. If there is a patriarchy, I would like to know because I've missed all the meetings. I haven't been to any meetings. Maybe I'm just being left out for some reason. But if we're going to have a patriarchy, I think we need to have some kind of an organization to it so that we can all the guys can get together and to make all these decisions for women. But to my knowledge, this patriarchy does not exist. Marriage, from a feminist perspective, is seen as a vestige or a production of the patriarchy because it in some way is designed to enslave women to men in these traditional gender roles. I just think that is such bullshit. I just can't even imagine, when you look at nature, animals have gender roles automatically. They just have them. Now, as humans, we do have this prefrontal cortex that we have evolved to over the last, couple 100,000 years. But for the most part, we are still animals underneath that thin layer of conscious, awareness that we use to distinguish ourselves from animals. But the vast majority of that gray matter was developed long before that prefrontal cortex. And so at our core, we are still animals. The DNA, the hormones, everything works exactly the way it does for animals. We share most of our DNA with other mammals. And all mammals seem to perform, they live their lives in what we would call traditional gender roles. You don't see male lions caring for kittens. You don't see male chimpanzees being in charge of the children. The females do that because it's in their DNA. It's how they are made. I would suggest that there is still a core DNA, a core nature to humanity. And for a lot of people, following that core DNA gives them comfort, it gives them direction, it gives them happiness, it gives them fulfillment in their lives. And when they go against that core DNA, it causes them to feel, anxious, depressed, confused. Sound familiar? The last and most arguable problem with modern feminism is it embraces a victimhood mentality. And that victimhood mentality creates this psychology in society that women are marginalized in some way. Now, I agree that through history, society has marginalized certain groups. We can certainly talk a lot about slavery and what happened with the American Indians, and we can talk about how minorities through history across the planet have been marginalized or enslaved or in other ways brutally treated. Modern women are not that. Let's just get really clear. Modern women in, we'll say republic, but a democracy, are the majority, not just in population, but also in the electorate. They have power, political power. They have laws that protect them. Today's woman is more powerful than they've ever been. They are not victims of mentality, of society. But embracing this mentality protects them against criticism, because obviously nobody wants to criticize a marginalized group. Nobody wants to pick on the little guy. Well, women are not the little guys. They're the big guys now. They're the ones that need the criticism. They're going through life causing enormous damage to society now. They are, like I said earlier, they are anxious. They're 25% of them right now are taking some kind of medicine for anxiety and depression. Throughout the course of their lives, half of them will be on some kind of drug just for a mental illness. The confusion about gender roles is probably at the core of all these problems, because they don't know who they are. They don't know what their role in society is. The average woman is balancing this pressure from this feminist society to perform in certain ways, to be seen as a successful woman, against her natural inclination to want to be a mom, to want to get married, to want to settle down, to want to have a normal life. And it's this dichotomy, this pull on them, that is creating so much of the difficulty, the pain, the mental illness, the stress, the overwhelm that these women are experiencing. And as men, we've got to put up with this bullshit. And it's ruining our lives. It's ruining marriages. It's ruining relationships. Men are fed up with it. We're tired. We're tired of it. We just want you to finally get your act together and just be women. Quit trying to be men and then being mad at men for being men. Please. Ending the pandemic of the toxic feminist cult that has been embraced by our whole society is not going to be an easy thing to do. It's going to require one step at a time. I believe that if women want to be in more masculine roles and they want to be treated like men, then they probably need to go all in. I think we need to have them in the selective service. We need to do away with alimony. We need to do away with different standards for men and women so that they can all achieve or lose at the same rate. Like the Army shouldn't have special, exceptions for women to get into different, roles in the military. If there is a physical component, they must meet that physical component or not be eligible, period. There should not be set-asides for women in businesses or in government. Those jobs should be completely on a competitive basis. All things should be purely competitive. There should not be any favoritism given to women in any way, shape, or form. That way, women will be able to actually feel what it feels like to be a man. Because right now, they're getting all the benefits of what it's like to have a masculine role with none of the downsides. And they're getting a distorted view of reality, quite frankly. And the only way we can help them get past that distortion is to change the rules so that they play by the same rules that we've been playing by for centuries. All right, you guys, that's all I got for you today. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe. If you know someone, perhaps a woman, who's struggling with this pandemic, and they are anxious, depressed, and or confused, maybe this video will shed some light on it for them. Until next time, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.